Sport Clips Haircuts and ESPN are teaming up for a Dad's Day getaway. An all-expenses-paid trip to ESPN and a day spent with Golic and Wingo on their show. Register for your chance to win at sportclips.com/ESPN. No purchase necessary. See rules at sportclips.com/ESPN. U.S. only. Age 18 and up and 6/15/18.
Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2 for the first hour. Presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Mike Golic Jr., and Trey Wingo. Daniel Powder, J.R. Smith knows how you feel. You had a bad day. But I think every NBA fan and sports fan, guys, had a pretty good night because that game one of the NBA Finals pretty much gave us everything we could possibly want to talk about going into what we thought would be a one-sided series. Maybe not now, right? We had it all last night.
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of the playoffs, especially the finals, when we weren't even getting games, that were within 10 points. And while this was a 10-point game, if you didn't see it, it was not a 10-point game. And there's so much that went into it that we'll get into it. But we've had so many that were blowouts and weren't as competitive. So to watch this one and to watch what Cleveland did and for every Cleveland fan to hold their breath through the third quarter when Golden State's usually destroying everybody and see them hang there and then all that went on in the end that we will get to was very, very entertaining. I mean, some of these games, luckily for us who have to get up early, when they weren't competitive at the end, we could go to bed and get a little sleep.
That wasn't an option last night.
This was not an option last night between that and watching the spelling bee, which of course was fun. But they were nice enough to get it out of the way in the first round of the championship round of the spelling bee so we could just concentrate on the basketball game.
Exactly. You got to, if you were screening it like we were, you got to spend the final 2 minutes of that NBA game, that fourth quarter, where all of the action that we're going to get to was really bottled up and sold. Mentioned the Warriors didn't lead by 10 until they got to that overtime period. So it was really all about what took place in that final 2 minutes. There are going to be disputed calls, even more disputed decision-making, including one decision that has not gotten talked about at all that I'm the most interested in hearing your guys' opinion on.
Ooh, Mike Jr. Nice with the tease of the day to start a Friday. Well done, lad. Well done. So again, we will dive into every possible scenario of Game 1. Ryan Hollins, our NBA analyst, will join us. Tim Legler will join us as well. We'll get to Eddie Olczyk talking about the NHL Stanley Cup Finals, and Michael Collins, former caddy and NFL golf analyst, will also join us to talk about Tiger Woods' interesting yet completely standard 2018 first round at the Memorial for Tiger. We'll get into all of that, and we will do the deep, deep, deep dive on Game 1 of the NBA Finals. But first, we'll get to what else is trending. Tiger Woods, again, played his first 7 holes at 4 over at Muirfield Village before rebounding to shoot an even par 72 in the first round of the Memorial. He's 7 shots behind the leaders, which included Eki Matsuyama. And the back was an issue, apparently, for Tiger. He said he woke up with tight back. Obviously, his spine has been fused. He said he knew that there are going to be days like this, and today was one of them, Mike.
Well, we talked about this yesterday, Trey, that everybody's saying he's getting closer and closer, but the way he plays Thursday and Friday in the last 3 tournaments, he's been 14-9 and 13 down.
Has not changed.
He's not been in but this is the closest one, by the way. He shot about what he normally does in the first round, but he's only 7 down this time.
Right.
So, but still puts himself in a monster hole. The back 9 par 5s, he's 3 over. I mean, just not taking advantage of the par 5s at all. And now we have the back tight. That's the one thing that we were like, you held your breath on, and you thought maybe are you busting through because he played enough this year, is he seemed pretty healthy. Now you hear about the back tightness, and you're like, uh-oh, is that going to start to rear its ugly head again? But he played Thursday like he normally plays Thursday, finds himself in another hole.
Par for the course so far for this year for him, but saying the back tightness said it is what it is. Some days you wonder how much he's been dealing with that and just not saying it at this point.
Exactly, and we'll see if he can turn it around and maybe put himself into contention in a tournament he's won many, many times with a good, decent round on Friday. Meanwhile, Clayton Kershaw made his first start for the Dodgers since May 1st after spending time on the DL due to left bicep tendonitis. I feel you, Clayton.
Yeah.
He pitched 5 innings, allowing 4 hits and 1 run, but his back tightened up. We sense a theme here, right?
Man, you go back to 2014, 44 days on the DL, inflamed back muscles. 2016, 74 days on the DL. Mildly herniated disc. You go 2017, lower back pain at the beginning of the year. Remember, he was 39 days on the DL. Now he has the bicep. but leaves the game after 5 innings, gives up 4 hits and a run with the back tightness. He'll have that MRI. So, again, a team that started to move up. It was lower in the division, and as of yesterday, they were 3.5 back out of the division leaders, the Colorado Rockies. But, man, he just can't seem to stay healthy right now.
And I don't know a lot about what his rehab process entailed, but having a history of back injuries myself and knowing that's a part of his narrative, you wonder, especially while you're rehabbing the bicep injury and trying to get back from that and get that right, how much you neglect the things that you have to do day to day. Because once you've had a back injury and that stuff as a part of your life, that is a day-to-day routine you need to maintain for that health. And that probably suffers when you're trying to just make sure, all right, got to get this bicep right, got to get back, got to start pitching.
Well, it's one of those classic examples. When you have an injury that you try to overcompensate for something else usually goes. And we'll hopefully figure out that Clayton Kershaw is going to be okay. The Phillies won the game behind 7 innings of 2-hit ball by their starter, Aaron Nola. And with the series tied at 1 game apiece, the Stanley Cup Finals head to our nation's capital for the first time since 1998. Game 3 is tonight at 8, and the status of Cap center Yevgeny Kuznetsov remains unclear. Caps coach Barry Trotz said in a conference call that Kuznetsov, who's the team's leading scorer in the playoffs, Mike, is still day-to-day with the ultimate Stanley Cup injury, an upper body problem.
Yeah, I mean,
anywhere north of the abdomen.
Yeah, we talked about that when we all saw the game the other night, and he kind of got backed into, and it looked like, to me, he grabbed like his hand or his wrist, so it could be a hand, wrist, elbow, could it be all the way to the shoulder? We think it's an arm injury, but that's what they do in hockey with upper body. You still think about that Holtby save that he had at the end of that game was just off of the shot by Tuck, who had really the open net on the pass, was absolutely incredible. We'll talk to Eddie Olczyk, 7:30 Eastern, this morning to preview that game in Washington in a little bit, but they did what they needed to do on the road. They got that split.
And now you're waiting to hear about the status of the leading goal scorer in the NHL in the playoffs. So no pressure going back to home ice. And if he is out, that puts all the more pressure on Ovi for this game. Yep. A guy who needs to, is already thrown one of the monkeys off his back and getting to the conference final. But now at this level, when you're one of the best in the world, is going to be expected to step up.
We talk about Ovechkin in the regular season, never getting done in the playoffs. You can kind of we just talked about another guy who does that in Kershaw. Right. Kershaw's been unbelievable. Now his has been somewhat injury-related at times, but also he struggled in the playoffs as well.
Yeah, it's interesting, though. Yes, he has, but most of his struggles have come against one team in one inning.
That's exactly
the
right.
Cardinals.
That's exactly
I can't remember
right.
which inning, maybe the 4th or 5th inning. It's very strange. But by the way, the one thing I've learned from all my years of covering the NHL, if they're saying he has an upper body injury, it's probably a knee.
No.
Or an ankle. That's the way they roll.
We actually saw that injury, and like we said, when you see a hockey player double over like he did, they're in some pain because they're the toughest dudes out there.
Well, yeah, I'd say even more to that, when you say it's an upper body injury, that probably means he's walking around with the shoulder out of the socket and the bone just completely severed.
I mean, that's just the way it works. I have a buddy of mine we were playing golf the other day. He told me about a friend of his who played a game. It's a rec league game, a hockey game. Passed a kidney stone during the game and kept playing.
Oh, my.
Hockey players are as
for
tough.
a rec hockey game?
Hockey game.
Yeah. All right, you know what? That's tough and cool, but you got to reassess your priorities, man.
Hey, man,
as well.
lay it on the line for the ice. He played through passing a kidney stone in a rec hockey game. Those guys are tough. Golic and Wingo is presented by Progressive Insurance with more than 30 unique coverage options available. Progressive knows small business. Learn more at progressivecommercial.com. Okay. It is going to be the topic of conversation all morning long across the country, where we work, where you work, where everybody works. Game 1 of the NBA Finals. And the one thing that everybody is talking about is what happened at the end of the game. George Hill misses the free throw that gave them the chance to take the lead. Instead, it comes up short. The rebound goes to J.R. Smith, and J.R. dribbles the clock out. Now, amazingly, this has happened before.
Yeah, it has.
People act like it never had. Magic Johnson in the 84 NBA Finals dribbled out the clock against Boston once, and ironically, that same postseason, 84 Western Conference Finals, Derek Harper, the Mavericks guard, actually dribbled the ball out against the Lakers when he thought they had the lead. So it has happened before, but everyone wanted to know, J.R., did you actually know what the score was when you got that rebound? Here's what JR had to say.
No, I seen it. I knew it was tied. It's just I thought we was going to call timeout because I got the rebound. I'm pretty sure everybody didn't think I was going to shoot over Katie right there. So
on the replay, it looked like you said to LeBron, I thought we were ahead.
If I thought we were ahead, then I would have just held on to the ball, let him foul me. But clearly that wasn't the case.
Okay, so that was what JR said.
Right.
And then there's what his head coach said.
He thought it was over. He thought we were up 1.
So the coach, and you can look at the replay, and you can. I'm not saying bad lip reading is a thing. I mean, the YouTube videos are out there. This was easy lip reading. This was easy lip reading.
Yeah, it definitely was.
I thought we had the lead.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's a lot to talk about around this play. There's George Hill missing a free throw.
Which, by the way, no one talks about.
Yeah, there's LeBron James passing the ball instead of shooting. So there's a lot for us to get into, but let's start with I think the biggest eye-opener out there was the fact that, again, George Hill is at the line and they're down 1 with 4.7 seconds to go. He makes the first one, so the big one. So at least it's tied. At least they have that. And they do have a timeout. So that was another interesting thing to me as well, is once JR then the ball goes off the front of the rim, JR gets it. And for those that are saying JR could have just shot the ball or laid it back in, there's no shot of that. Kevin Durant was standing right there in the 7-footer. It wasn't going to be an easy shot.
Correct.
So my thought initially was everybody was going to call timeout. And they didn't. And I thought, wow.
LeBron was trying to.
Yeah, but after JR dribbled it out, I mean, it was down to a second or so left by the time. Cause I think everybody was stunned that JR, they thought maybe he's going to put it back up, but I thought that was a smart decision after it turns out he thought he was winning. But he dribbled out, and I think everybody was like, what the hell are you doing? But I thought some people would have called timeout to at least set something up. But he dribbled it out. And you could see LeBron kind of pointing like what you're doing. You could clearly read his lips that said, I thought we were ahead. And that's the only conclusion you could come to when you see what you saw out there. But that was one of the things. So a boneheaded play by him has happened before. You learn it in Little League. I say it all the time. You got to know the situation, but it has happened.
There's a great New York Daily News cover from back in the day when he was a Knick, with the same scenario playing out that ended up losing them a game to the Houston Rockets. So you can never really take the Knick out of a player.
Yeah. So I
me's
mean,
your takeaway.
So listen, that's the one. The stench of the New York Knicks is hard to wash off.
So I mean, what's all these things come together? Miss the free throw. If you make the free throw, you're up 1. Now, who knows that the game is over? The Golden State will call timeout. They get the ball at half court, and there's 4.7 seconds left, which is an eternity for them. And they were banging threes at that point. Even Draymond Green was hitting a couple threes. Yeah, he hit some in overtime. You know, was it the miss? Was it obviously the boneheaded play of not calling timeout? But nobody called timeout. So, I mean, there were a few things there that you can question. The biggest thing, obviously, is JR thinking they were ahead. No doubt about it.
Yeah, that's day one stuff that you can't ever get wrong in that scenario.
Yeah.
It's like sitting when a batter's coming up in baseball and you just kind of go around and check in with everyone. You've got the time to catch your breath. You're sitting there at the free throw line. You'd thought there'd been some commiseration, and you heard the frustration on the part of Ty Lue, LeBron James and company after the game, who just assumed that you would have this base level basketball knowledge of what the bleeping score is going into that moment.
What's lost in this conversation, though, is that this is not. The Cavs did this at the end of the first half, too. Okay, they had a situation where they could have played for what was close or next to the last shot. Instead, they had this ridiculous turnover, and then they let who free?
Yeah.
Steph Curry, of all people, who was draining threes in pregame, as he always does, basically from the logo, basically from half court. As soon as he got free, you knew that three was going in. You knew it was going down. So in game one, the Cavs not only blew the end of the game, they blew the end of the half, and that three tied it at 56.
And what was interesting there is you look at the guy who went for the steal instead of just staying in front of Steph Curry. Yeah. It was J.R. Smith.
There you go.
He went for the steal. He missed it, so Curry is wide open. He knocks down that three.
You knew he was making that three.
The only thing J.R. Smith did did last night to help was to actually fall into the knees of Klay Thompson, where you thought, and you don't want to see anybody hurt bad.
That looked
bad.
But
when he fell, and for anybody thinking, there's no way in my mind it was on purpose.
Agreed.
No. He fell into his knees, but you saw his knees slip and twist, and you thought, he could be done for sure. That was a tough play, but he came back and played. Happy he did. As if you're a Cavs fan, you're probably not.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah. But you saw him go to the locker room immediately, had that awareness, and got it checked out. But back in there to the end of the game, doesn't seem like it'll be anything lasting. And so you're right. So you had that as a portion of it. That's going to be the easy part of this one. It being J.R. Smith is such cosmic justice.
Yeah.
We all, in a sense, deserve that right now. That was his, I don't know if everyone in the room has seen the new Avengers, but that was his Star-Lord moment.
Yeah.
Where you've got a chance to take down the giant, and instead you let your own boneheadedness get in the way of that.
And your point
Whoa, don't diss Star-Lord.
Yeah.
You can cross many lines. Do not go at Pratt.
I mean, he just barfed all over himself in that movie. It was an embarrassment.
Don't do it.
He did.
Don't do it.
It was terrible.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
He was the loser in that movie. Worst character in that movie. Barfed all over himself.
We're gonna fight.
But to your point, and you're right, it wasn't like bang bang. You're standing at the free throw line. You're standing in the lane, and so you have time to understand where you are in the game and what the situation is.
Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2, and the Warriors had plenty of winning moments last night, including the third quarter again, and that could be described as losing moments also by the Cavs. Winning moments, though, brought to you by La Quinta Inns and Suites. Book at LQ.com and win at business. Okay, you know we marvel at LeBron James's ability to recall everything that happened. And, well, this happened, this happened, this happened. Steve Kerr was asked about the J.R. Smith situation after the game, and he proved once again that he has a pretty good basketball recall as well.
We got lucky. He could have taken a shot, but he dribbled out. I guess he thought they were ahead. Reminded me of a play. I'm a basketball junkie, so I don't know. Derek Harper dribbled the game out, clock out with Dallas years ago. Sometimes this stuff happens. It's just we got lucky.
And that may be the most interesting thing that's coming out of this. The Warriors know they got away with one here.
Yeah.
Big time, right? I mean, big time. And Cleveland, my God, if you just found a way to either finish the half or finish the game, the narrative for this entire finals changes. The entire finals changes.
It does. And one thing you can continue to say as a former player is you still had overtime. You know what? It was tied. You had 5 more minutes. You had played this team, obviously, even. You made some boneheaded mistakes. I thought the officiating was horrific on both sides.
Correct.
I'm not picking we'll get to the block charge call, but on both sides for the entire game. So I'm not picking a side saying one team got screwed more than the other. I thought they were bad all the way around. But as a player, I'll say you had overtime. Now, you couldn't see a more dejected team at that point, and that's the part of the mental side of it, is saying we had this game. They were starting to heat up in Golden State, and now we have to play them for 5 more minutes.
It's easy to say you need to reset your mind.
It is.
It is a lot harder to do in that moment. And also, what tends to happen in overtime is the better team tends to will out.
Yep.
Cleveland is not the better team in this series. In no metric other than having the best player are they better at anything than the Golden State Warriors. So eventually, that was going to come true. We almost said they stole a game for a reason because they shouldn't be winning these games. And Trey, you said it. The exhale that happens if you win game 1 of the series, you get your game on the road that you need and can start to all of a sudden retool and get ready to load up for when you go home. Changes the way you think about this entire series.
The thing that it reminded me of, and you guys are going to scoff at me, but it was the 2009 Open Championship.
Of course it'd be golf.
Tom Watson at 59 years old would have been one of the greatest stories in the history of sports. Forget golf, in the history of sports, is going to win one of the 4 majors at 59. All he has to do is hit an 8-foot putt for par to win the championship. He misses it. He goes to a playoff. And you knew as soon as it went to a playoff, he had no chance to win. Zero chance to win. And Stuart Singh, God bless him, really nice guy, goes on to take the Open Championship. And he's like, I'm sorry, I wanted Tom to win too.
Listen, I'm with you. I understand that they were in a real hole when it went to overtime. But as an athlete, you have to sit there and say, well, it was even then. They had their chance, but I'm with both of you guys. You could just see they were like, wow, we just blew it. And then Golden State absolutely just took control right from the get-go in overtime.
And so this is interesting to me because we've talked about every other angle of this final scenario, and JR was the easy target, George Hill missing the free throws or something. But you mentioned it a little bit, and this is what I was really interested in. The fact that no one has mentioned this, and I'm not necessarily saying that I even subscribe to this line of thinking, because I think we waved bye-bye to this a long time ago with him, but the fact that not one person has come for LeBron James in this, who had the ball in his hands in the waning seconds of that possession, holding for the final shot, and wasn't even thinking about shooting.
Look, you can go there if you want, and that's fine, but on a night where he scores 51 and the rest of the team scores 63, the last thing I'm thinking about is, LeBron James made a mistake here.
I'm not saying I'm not. I understand that, but the fact that no one is Trey,
I know
the
what you're
fact for a
saying,
guy that for so long has been chastised for his end-game routine, and a guy who had been taken over, got the switch on Steph Curry that he wanted, had taken him to the rack multiple times in that fourth quarter and in those last couple minutes, and for whatever reason didn't. Made the right play, saw George Hill moving, but the fact that no one has come for him shows what a corner we've turned.
I get your point, because I was up for that game, so on Twitter, and didn't see it anywhere on Twitter after that, to your point, because he has certainly heard that before, because he absolutely had a wide open George Hill who got hooked and got fouled and was right at the free throw line.
It was the smart basketball play, but you're right, maybe that's finally people understanding, we need to stop parsing him so thin. If nothing else, though, and I mean if nothing else, we owe J.R. Smith a little bit of gratitude, because, ladies and gentlemen, because of J.R. Smith's gift, we give you the gift of Stephen A.
I don't really know what words I can describe that are fit for FCC airwaves to explain the tragic decisions by J.R. Smith. You talk about asleep at the wheel. I got to tell you something right now. That is as inexcusable of a mistake as you can possibly make.
So if nothing else, JR, you gave us that for Stephen A.
And amazingly,
we appreciate
amazingly enough, gang, we can give you a couple of scenarios where the same thing happened to some people you know and a Hall of Fame players.
That's exactly right. All right, but by the way, we're not near done talking about this game. There are so many more angles to get into, including the NBA wading into some waters that the NFL is trying to get out of. Yet somehow the NBA said, let's go there. Let's swim there, because that's going to be good for us.
To give batters a different look, pitchers throw a changeup.
Your idea of a different look is sunglasses.
That's true. But La Quinta Inns and Suites is really taking the different look thing to a new level.
Definitely a major league makeover, starting with a bolder, brighter lobby full of comfortable spaces to let you settle in.
Or chill out in front of a big flat screen like Wingo would.
Oh, you know it. It's a changing La Quinta look to help you get in the zone and look sharp when you hit that big meeting.
Prepare to win at business with La Quinta Inns and Suites.
Book now at LQ.com.
At Trex, we know there's a place for wood in your backyard. We recommend the fire pit. But when it comes down to choosing the right material for your next deck, look no further than the superior beauty and durability of the world's #1 premium decking brand. Trex delivers the look of wood without all of the work and the worry, and it's made from 95% recycled materials, which makes it the right choice for your backyard 100% of the time. To learn how to make Trex your next deck, visit Trex.com to order samples.
Golic and Wingo with you on ESPN Radio and ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests joining us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And that block charge is about time for some Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. Okay, we started the show with the end of the game, the J.R. Smith scenario, which J.R. Smith was, J.R. Smith.
Right.
But just as significant, maybe even more is the thing that set that whole end of the game scenario into motion, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, so the situation was just under 40 seconds ago. The Cavs were up 2 in this situation. And then Kevin Durant drives the lane, LeBron gets in front, and initially a charge is called. So let's just stop there and think what that does. So now there's 39, I think, some seconds to go.
36
points. Okay.
Yeah, something like that.
So if nothing else, they can burn the clock 24 more seconds and then possibly score at least 2 to put themselves up to the possibility of 2 scores, unless you foul someone shooting, a 3 and they make it. So that's the scenario of what they could have done. Burned a lot of time, possibly gone up 4 or 5 in this situation, but it goes to review. So, and this is where a lot of people wondered what's going on. You're saying, wait a minute, it's a judgment call. It's a judgment call. Why? And someone even tweeted about it. This is bogus. They changed the foul call made inside 2 minutes. Why couldn't they look at the 2 calls before that? And I'll tell you why. Because the only reason that they replay and change this call is because of the restricted area. And this is a rule that was put into play in 2012-13, that in the last 2 minutes of a game or in overtime, you can go to replay to see if a defender, in this case LeBron James, was standing in the restricted lane or not. That's the reason you go to replay. But while you're in the replay, you can change the actual judgment call. So you can say, well, he wasn't in a restricted area, but you can say, oh, you know what? That wasn't a charge. That was a block, which is exactly what they did. I stood there scratching my head saying, well,
It's
wait a
awful.
minute. The only thing they should be able to do is change, was he standing in the restricted area or not? But they're changing a judgment call. I think it's ridiculous. Been a rule for 5 years, though.
Yep.
I didn't even know about it. I don't even know if there's some players that don't know about it. I think it's a ridiculous rule, but it is a rule. But you still get to, was it too close to change? Because, Steve, we're going to play some of the sound on both sides of the coin. Some thought it was a charge, some thought it was a block.
Here's what this amazes me, because what has dominated the NFL over the last couple of years? Was it a catch? Was it not a catch? Was there micro-inch movement of something that allowed it to be something? And the NFL's like, we don't want this. We don't need this. It's mucking up the game. It's driving people crazy. So we're getting rid of this. We are out of this business. And the NBA is like, let's swim there. Let's go into these waters because that's going to make things fun. And again, the idea that you can go to the replay over one thing and then see something else and change it. That's like saying, okay, was he inbounds or out of bounds? Oh, that was pass interference that we missed, so let's throw the flag on that. That makes no sense whatsoever.
It doesn't. It's inconsistent with the rest of the game. It's well-intentioned because you want to get the calls right. I'm not with the people that constantly say down the stretch of a game, you need to stuff the whistle, you need to let this go, you need to let them play, it's playoff basketball, all this stuff. No, if you're going to call it in the second quarter, call it in the final waning seconds of the game.
But that was
Get
the problem
right across
here.
the board.
They called nothing in the first half, and they started calling everything.
Well,
in the
as I said, overall, I thought the refs were horrible on both sides of the coin. Normally what you see in a situation like this, and we've all seen it if you've been on a field, is what can happen is if they called the block and didn't go to review, but one of the officials saw it as a charge, officials can huddle together and change the call. We see that happening in
That's
all
actually
sports.
smart
That's
officiating.
exactly right. But in this case, the impetus for going to replay again was the restricted line, and it is a rule. If you go to check the restricted line, you can then check if it was a block or a charge, depending on what the call was, which blew my mind. I had no idea they could do that.
And again, if this had happened anywhere else, they couldn't have done it. Like if this at the three-point line, they couldn't have made
It's
this
all
call.
about the restricted line.
All right, so here's LeBron James on the call, obviously not pleased.
I thought I read that play just as well as I read any play in my career, defensively. Seeing the drive, I was outside the charge line. I stepped in, took the contact. It's a huge play. It's a huge play.
So, it reminded me, and I can't remember who the Bears were playing this year, but remember John Fox thought the guy had scored, and then they went and looked at replay, and they realized he fumbled the ball out of bounds.
Right.
So if he hadn't challenged the play, they had a 1st and goal at the 1 and said, well, it hit the pylon, touchback team, the other team gets it. But that was something that was induced by the coach. This is the refs deciding to do it.
You can still have that, though, because all scoring plays are reviewed under 2 minutes. So in theory, you could have a scoring play that has that overturned by it. The NFL is not rid of this sort of problem. That's what happens when you introduce the idea of replay in these endgame moments, because, again, it's all born from the right place. You understand that we prioritize the end of games. For better or for worse, the last 2 minutes of a game to us are far more important than any other 2 minutes in the midst of a game. And so if you're the NFL or the NBA or any league, you say, all right, we'll follow suit. We'll make sure we get calls right. The problem is now you made the call a story in this game because of that.
And here's the question. Do you think they'll change this rule going forward? Because this seems like a ridiculous rule. It seems like an absolutely ridiculous rule.
I have always said, and it's always usually been about football and replay. The best replay out there is tennis, without a doubt.
Yeah, just put it on the computer.
Simple, right? I never thought you should be able to replay judgment because we started getting into that in the NFL. It's like you start doing pass interference and judgment calls and holding. I don't think I ever want that. I like getting the call right, but these are judgment calls. So when they said on the broadcast, it's not just about the restricted line, they can change a call, I was dumbfounded. But then I thought, you know what? It was so close. Now you start thinking reviews mean you need to see it clearly one way to change it. And I certainly didn't see it one way easily to change it.
The laughable part, too, is that he couldn't have been further from the restricted line.
Oh,
that was
I know.
not even remotely in play in all of this. So what a smokescreen just to get to go over there and just do what they should have done, huddled up and discussed. That seemed like what this was, because I can't believe as many times as referees call that specific scenario that they would look at that and say, man, I thought his feet might have been on that line.
Not even close.
That's the thing. Again, good officiating is getting everybody together. Hey, did we get this right? We see that happen in the NFL all the time. But to go to replay, it seems so bogus. It seems so. That's like let's just see what they saw.
Like I said, going to replay for the reason of is on the restricted line, I get. Now, he was far away from it. But, while we're there, if we see anything else, we can change it. Man. But it's a rule. It is a rule, and I know we'll play Steve Javie, who is that official that's looking at everything. Yep. He saw it one way. Our own Tim Legler saw it another way. So it is one of those where people can look at it and see two different things.
Yeah, we'll have Steve Javie's interpretation of it, and we'll have what Michael Wilbon said, which I thought was really interesting about this. But again, the NBA is willing to go where the NFL is trying to get out of. Just put yourself in that scenario and understand you don't want these. We want to be talking about J.R. Smith and what did or didn't happen. You don't want to be talking about this.
No.
You don't want this to be one of the storylines leading up to what was really an unbelievable first game of the NBA Finals. And that was Straight Talk Wireless. Nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. Coming up, if you thought LeBron was mad about the block charge call, wait to hear what got him out of his press conference seat after the game. We'll get to that, Mike.
Hey, guys, this is Mike Golic.
And this is Trey Wingo.
You ever wish you could wake up early in the morning and have donuts with your dad and us?
For Father's Day this year, you can. We're teaming up with Sport Clips Haircuts for a Dad's Day getaway. An all-expense-paid trip to ESPN, including a day spent with us on the show.
Plus, my son, Junior, it is for Father's Day, isn't it?
Register for your chance to win online at sportclips.com/ESPN and make priceless memories.
No purchase necessary. See rules at sportclips.com/ESPN. U.S. only. Age 18 and up and 6/15/18.
Golic and Wingo with you on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. Leave us a voicemail. What did you think about either the Cavs' chances in Game 1, what J.R. Smith was thinking, or how this changes the series? It's 860-506-5505. Leave us a voicemail there, 860-506-5505. And we'll get into a couple of things. Oh, you got something?
I just have a great tweet from Mark that says, what was JR thinking? Should have just called a timeout. Sincerely, Chris Webber.
Oh, nicely done. Nicely done. Who, by the way, he played for Golden State for a while, didn't he?
Yeah,
didn't Chris Webber play for Golden State? So we'll get into the Steve Javie thing on the block charge in a minute. But how much, if the Cavs had won, did this change the dynamic of the entire
my
series?
gosh.
I mean, literally, how much could it have changed?
To steal that game, everybody talking about, a sweep or a gentleman's sweep, it being 4-1 and Cleveland really not having a shot, and it basically playing out the way everybody would thought LeBron would get the lion's share of everything, and would he have enough help from everybody else? Horrible three-point shooting, especially through most of this game, actually. Golden State started hitting him more at the end, but what a confidence builder this would have been if they could have got that split on the road out of the way in Game 1 to take some pressure off.
And I just think, because I know we got Ryan coming up, but talking about how much LeBron has left in the chambers now, how many outings like this he has, and what an opportunity for him to gauge his exertion going into Game 2 if they had taken this one. Yeah. Because then you've stolen the game on the road that you need.
Right.
You can start to give more of that measured approach that we usually see out of LeBron James in Game 1 in a lot of these series.
Yeah, you made a great point as I was driving in today listening. Normally he's a jab guy. Like, we'll feel out how things go.
Right.
That happened in Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals against Boston. He had 15 points and I think 7 turnovers in that game. I think he knew that this was their best chance to steal one. And he came out blazing.
Let me put a number to it. In Game 1's this postseason, he's averaged 21 points. Yeah. In all the other games, 36 points. So to your point, he knew he needed to do more. And I'd say going 30 over your average is doing a little bit more.
He did a lot more. He looked like he was 23 out there. It was really ridiculous. But again, the block charge is as much of this as it is what happened with J.R. Smith at the end of the game. Our own referee analyst, former ref Steve Javie in the NBA, broke down the block charge this way.
I looked at LeBron James' left foot. Yes, he was moving, but when somebody is firming up, in my opinion anyway, as long as that left foot was down, he can firm up. When you firm up, you're going to be moving. This is the kind of play, Scott, I think 50-50, that some guys will say it's a charge, some guys will say it's a block. I know in real time, it's definitely a charge. And in slow motion, instant replay, it's a really, really difficult play.
By the way, it's firming up. It's firming up, by the way, now the new football move?
Yeah, maybe.
Firming up.
It was
firming up.
You know what I did learn, though, and Mark Jackson and Jeff Van Gundy both said it, because what's the one thing I think that the fan looks for on a block charge is, was the defender moving?
Correct.
And they both said you can be moving.
Right.
But you can be moving, but it's when you establish yourself, because, again, we're going to have Tim Legler in here a little later. He was on with SVP after the game, and I was listening to him. He said, without question, from the first shot of it live, he thought it was blocking on LeBron. And he said one of the big reasons is LeBron turned his left shoulder into Durant. He didn't stay square. He turned the shoulder. He said to him it was a block all the way. You know, and to
What
Javi,
did you see? What did you see?
I thought he was stationary. I mean, I thought it was a charge, but you know, but I did see the foot moving a little bit until those guys said you can move, and then that's okay. But when Leg said that about the shoulder, because you can see LeBron turning that shoulder a little bit, but then it comes down to the call was going to. There were two calls. One ref called charge, one ref called block, but it was I think it was the head official who called charge. That's what it was going to be. It was going to be a charge until they changed that. So I was just surprised at the rule that said you could change it.
What did you see?
I saw a block. Yeah. I saw a block in that instance, but procedure is the most important part of this. We could have lived in that moment. There would have been enough on both sides for us to go with what they want. And instead, not only did the refs get time to relook at that, all of us did to form even stronger opinions and focus more on this moment rather than what else was going to go on around it.
And that is the thing that's got to be haunting Adam Silver and the NBA right now. This game had literally everything. Mm-hmm. Everything you would possibly want from a finals game one against a colossal favorite and a massive underdog, and you're like, wait a minute, this actually could be a series. And as much as the J.R. Smith blunder, we're talking about this, and that has got our own Michael Wilbon, let's say, heated.
That rule has to be changed. I mean, you're just walking around this arena talking to former players, to players on other teams, former coaches. Almost nobody knew that 5 years ago the NBA instituted a rule that said you could go back and look at something like a judgment call. This isn't foot on the line, visual evidence. This isn't ball out of bounds, went off somebody's hands, visual evidence. This is a judgment call, which the league says it doesn't want replay to deal with. Leaning. Was he stationary? Was he moving? Was he sideways? You can't get into that and then go to replay. That call has to be made on the court and kept within the authority of the game officials.
I 1,000% agree, but also 1,000% understand nothing's going to happen with that rule, or at least it's not going to happen until the offseason. So the bottom line
there's no way they're changing rule during the finals.
That's what I mean. Yeah. So the point is, we all think the rule, I didn't even know it. I think it's a horrible rule, but it ain't changing, and it is a rule, and the refs did exactly what they are allowed to do. So, I mean, we have to live with that.
And what did Wilbon just say? Most people didn't even know this was a rule for the last 5 years, so it's not like we expected to come up again and impact this series. Now, I know you always say this.
By the way, what do you bet it doesn't come back again and impact this series? I mean, think about it. Let's make sure we don't go down that road again, boys.
Well, yeah, hey, guys, do it a favor. Just call this one on the floor. Let's leave it be.
Yeah, okay. Coming up, LeBron wasn't happy with the block charge call, obviously, but that's not what made him get up and leave the post-game press conference. That was a very unusual scenario. We'll play that sound for you. Plus, Tall Guy will join us. Ryan Hollins is here. Golic and Wingo on a Friday. Woohoo!
Sport Clips Haircuts and ESPN are teaming up for a Dad's Day getaway. An all-expenses-paid trip to ESPN and a day spent with Golic and Wingo on their show. Register for your chance to win at sportclips.com/ESPN. No purchase necessary. See rules at sportclips.com/ESPN. U.S. only. Age 18 and up and 6/15/18.
Going to run it out. I think JR didn't know how much time was left, and we're going to overtime.
LeBron James is looking at him like he has to be the most idiotic individual on the planet Earth.
He thought it was over. He thought we were up one.
It is rare that I am relatively speechless. That moment has officially arrived.
He continued to insist he knew the score was tied when he dribbled the ball out in regulation.
The most brain-dead, idiotic thing that I've ever witnessed. Right. In the case of J.R. Smith. I don't know what to say.
The best part about that Stephen A. Smith sound, I'm almost speechless.
Yeah. Yeah, he'll never be completely speechless.
He wouldn't go fully speechless.
No, that wouldn't happen.
I'm almost speechless, he said.
Yeah.
That's not possible.
Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. Hey, leave us a voicemail. What did you think about Game 1 of the NBA Finals, specifically the block charge or J.R. Smith or whatever? 860-506-5505. We will get to those later on. Again, 860-506-5505. We're progressive. We are progressive, but we're presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, and that song in the background was I'm Blue by Eiffel 65, and songs like that are also featured on our Amazon Music playlist. The simplest way to listen to the music you love. New customers, start your 30-day free trial at AmazonMusic.com. Renews automatically, cancel at any time. Sometimes you got to put in the work.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of short turnarounds in this business, and short is not a word we normally associate with our
No,
next
it is
guest.
not.
Our NBA analyst, our 7-footer, our skyscraper, Ryan Hollins joins us in studio, giving us the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Appreciate the hustle. Know you were up late last night, so thanks for being with us this morning.
Hey, fellas. Hey, I would drop the world to get on Golic and Wingo. Come on, guys. You know it.
Nice job.
Hot take, Hollins.
And we're trying to help you to get you awake. We're going to do so many tweets about it. Because nobody sees it on the set. We know it's National Donut Day.
Yes.
There's not a National Donut Day that goes by that a Golic doesn't understand. My wife went and got 3 dozen donuts that are sitting outside the studio here from that great place.
Is that who brought those?
Yeah. I brought my wife got them at Murphy's Donuts, Mrs. Murphy's in Southwick, Massachusetts, right over the border. They're just fantastic. So, yes, we understand it's Donut Day. Hopefully that'll help you, get a little of that sugar rush and help you because you were up late last night. So,
fellas, I don't know if I want a sugar rush right now. I don't know if that's what I want to be hearing right now.
Ryan's got some other things going on right now.
And maybe the game was rush enough, huh?
There you go. Well, it was something. Okay, so listen, I guess the best way to get into what was so many interesting things, a compelling game one across the board.
We got to put. There's so many.
Let me ask you this: let's start here. The one thing that you're taking away from game one more than anything else is what? The one thing you're prioritizing.
The Warriors are vulnerable.
Yeah.
They are not the same juggernaut that we've known. There are holes in that team that LeBron and company found. And I know we're going to focus, unfortunately, on the wrong things, but they found a lot of holes last night. And, fellas, if you're going back to the locker room and you're looking at that film, you're going, they're not better than us. We can have a lot of success against this team, and all you need is hope.
So
you also need to win one.
Yeah,
that was one they could have won. That was one they could have won.
So let's start with the thing we talk about. Anybody from middle school on up is you learn situations. And while we're going to talk about J.R. Smith thinking they were ahead, we have already listed other players in the NBA who have done this, who have not known the score. J.R. did it once before when he was with the Knicks, but others have done it as well. So it has happened, but still, put yourself in that situation. Is it as inexcusable as we are all saying that there's no way that you should not know what the score is in the situation?
Man, I mean, look, man, the championships, that's an emotion-filled place where anything can happen. Obviously, JR knows better. He's more upset at himself than anybody else can be. But there's a simple thing we would do in this situation, and I was disappointed in Cleveland going down the stretch because of this. We always say on the free throw line, that's where we do our most communicating. We'll either come together and huddle as a team, or just as basic as you want to say, you'll call it, hey, I'm boxing out the shooter. Hey, we're going to pinch and help on the big man down low, or like, hey, guys, we've got no timeouts, or, we're running fist, we're running punch, whatever we're doing on the other side of the end. That's the time to communicate. So, yeah, JR has to know better, but just because a teammate may be airheaded in a situation, hey, guys, we get the rebound, hold it. Hey, this is the play we're running. Hey, pinch on the free throw line. Those are just basic game-winning mistakes in situations where I've lost games like that, and we've come in the next day and gone over free throw, box-out type of situations or situational basketball. That's really what practice consists of at that point.
Okay, so as Ryan Hollins is with us, our NBA analyst, you're thinking that as devastating as the loss was for the Cavs, they're feeling pretty good about Game 1?
They're feeling great, and even more so, I would say, I don't want to say they're feeling great because they lost. Right. They're upset. But they're not looking at this thing to say, we're outgunned, we're outmanned, there's nothing that we can do against this team. They're looking at their personnel and what they did last night with the game plan and feeling, I don't want to say very confident, but very confident and excited that they can execute that game plan. Look, I had keys coming into the game. Pace, physicality, wild cards. The wild cards, I say, J.R. Smith.
The wildest of wild cards in Game 1.
Kevin Love.
Yep.
Green. Which one of those guys show up? And I thought that if it wasn't necessarily in the point total, they contributed with extra effort, diving on the floor, just making a bunch of plays, and there's things they can clean up.
Right. Well, listen, this is a fascinating discussion here because it's not only National Donut Day, as you alluded to, Mike. Apparently, it's a list of many other things. But our great researcher, Riley, came up with the best segue ever. It is also National Heimlich Maneuver Day. And Heimlich maneuver is something you do when you are choking.
Yeah.
When you choke. And speaking of that, LeBron James went through this little back and forth about what J.R. Smith Heimlicked in last night's game with our own intrepid ESPN reporter, Mark Schwartz.
From where you stood on the court and from talking to him after the play, what's your reaction to it? What's your version?
What do you mean, what's my version?
Well, did he think that the game was tied, or did he think that you guys had it salted away?
How do I know that?
Or did you discuss it at all with him at the end of the play?
No. They asked me if I talked to JR about it. I said no already. I knew it was a tie game. We was down one. George Hill went up. He made the first one. We got the offensive rebound. I thought we were all aware of what was going on. That's my view. So I don't know what JR was thinking. I don't know the question you're trying to ask.
I was just trying to see if you knew exactly what his state of mind was. Did he think that you guys had it won, or did he think he was trying to make a play? Not sure.
Okay. What do you mean I'm not sure? No, I don't know his state of mind.
Did you know if he knew the score?
Thank you.
That was that.
And then he left.
Send it.
So in that situation, Ryan, when you talk about communication when you're on the free throw, and Mike, you brought up this point before, and I agree, that's the point where everybody can kind of take a breath and you can collect yourself because it's not. And so in your mind, what was the correct scenario? Because he couldn't have put the shot right back up with Kevin Durant standing there. So in your mind, what's talked about before that play on a miss, and if you get the rebound, what should have happened?
He could have put the ball back up.
You think so?
Because in that situation,
with
you're
Durant
likely,
right there?
you're likely going to score or get fouled. You just rode Durant under the basket. If not, you call a timeout. In this situation, I want to assume they had one, right?
They had a timeout, and that's my question. Why didn't anybody call it, including Ty Lue?
Let's just be honest right here. There are a lot of more mistakes than JR. And just the fact, JR was so surprised that he actually got the rebound. Kevin Durant is 7'1" with long arms, and he inched him under the rim, and the ball came off perfect. It was like, oh my goodness. He didn't think he's getting that ball, let alone George Hill missing. And fellas, you want to know why everybody's not quick to throw a stone or have a blame? Steph Curry fouls George Hill cutting to the line. Game-winning, losing basketball.
Yep.
George Hill misses a free throw, a guy who I pretty much counted two of them before they went in, and then KD doesn't box out. That's inexcusable. Look, dude, in that situation, you turn and you body slam your guy out of bounds. You're pulling like a Golic, all right, on that wheel. Nice. That guy's not getting the ball, okay? So KD screwed up. There's nothing that he could have said, but they got away with one. And LeBron wasn't just sprinting to the basketball either. Right. He didn't get open.
No, he didn't get open, and his role in this final sequence is interesting to me, too, because LeBron was a guy that did everything last night.
Yeah. Understatement.
You look at 51 points and you say it is impossible to blame, but we've seen people in the past blame him left and right for things.
People have made a career on that. They've made a career on
that. I was interested, though, in last night because we saw with LeBron, he was in that mode where he was getting to the basket late in the game. He was getting fouled on the way there and ones, all of this, and he was doing it when he was getting those switches on Steph Curry. He had the switch on Steph on that last possession. Yeah. He was at the top of the key, and he wasn't even thinking about shooting or driving. Did that surprise you at all?
No, it was tough. And LeBron felt the offense starting to just get stagnant. And the frustrating part is this is a tale of two scouting reports. So if you're the Warriors, they forced contested three-point shots from Cleveland. And if you were Cleveland, you ran Golden State off the line. When you get to that level, they're going to make you do what you don't want to do, and that's why last night was so excellent. There was just game plan discipline from both sides, from both teams like last night. That was impressive, and LeBron was a little frustrated going, I got to have a better answer here than just getting in the hole and kicking, because if you watch that last play, and let's rewind to the playoffs, LeBron has beat you. At the end of the game, this is just common defense. You switch everything. LeBron was and you stay home on shooters. You don't want to give up the game. On that last play, great job from Kerr. A game-winning championship-saving call from Kerr. They switched, and Draymond sat in the middle of the lane. That's why George Hill was open. They said that LeBron James, who has beat everybody in the league thus so far, will not beat them down the stretch, and they saw that situation coming. Draymond sat on the free throw line. That's why he had nowhere to go. He made Fellas, LeBron James made the perfect play all game long. That was a piece of, I don't know if I've ever seen anything like that in my life. It was literally unreal, play after play.
And you talk about the little things, and quite honestly, Klay Thompson made the right move by fouling George Hill. He got beat.
Yes.
Right?
Was that Klay or was that Steph?
That was Klay.
No, Steph was on LeBron.
Okay.
So it was Klay.
Absolutely.
It was Klay that fouled him.
Yeah.
And it was a good foul because Hill ends up missing one.
He ends up missing one.
So he knew it was going to be an easy layup if you let him go, and he grabbed him by the arm and fouled him.
Yeah. As NBA analyst Ryan Hollins is with us, Hot Take Hollins, as we like to call him.
Gosh.
Can we at least put some of this on George Hill? I mean, I get it. Those were only 2 free throws in the game. But he's an 80% career free throw shooter. I mean, to your point, LeBron made the perfect play. He made the perfect play there. And while, yes, J.R. Smith's disaster is a disaster, you got to make that free throw.
He has to make that free throw. It's funny. I'm bragging before George takes the shot that, George Hill has been here before. He never gets rattled. He knocks down shots. It's clank.
Yeah, sure.
Clank. And the play before, Kevin Love makes the worst play possible.
Yep.
When Curry drives, either let the guy go or clobber him where he doesn't get, and he gives up an and one. Yeah. That's why nobody can throw a stone. No one can on that lineup can throw a stone at J.R. Smith. And guess what? The way they played, ultimately, Klay, good job of grabbing him, but get in there and make contested three. Tag in there and give up a contested three instead of grabbing the guy. Get there early. You know the game plan. You know Dre is going to sit. You guys had a perfect game plan. Everybody's asked, why you let LeBron play one-on-one? Why you let LeBron play one-on-one? Guess what? They didn't let LeBron play one-on-one. Great job, Steve Kerr.
It's great game plan execution down in the late game. Well, great game plan execution and then poor execution by a lot of people and that end of game scenario. Now I want to talk about the third team on the court. The guys wearing the stripes. So we get under 2 minutes, and we've got this charge block now that the referees ended up reviewing. When you looked at that play, what did you see with the call, and how do you feel about that review process?
So first off, the play was botched 2 plays before. They think there was a foul missed, and KD goes out of bounds. I mean, look, Ray Charles knew he was out of bounds. Look, everybody knew he was out of bounds, okay?
He was out of bounds.
All right? LeBron is clearly moving, and it's funny. They demand to go to Javi on the play. Dude, the couple plays, Javi was so mad because he's there to protect the shield. He's there to protect essentially the referees, and they screwed up. And Javi's like, are you really going to ask me this right now? Because there's no explanation he had other than that they missed that call. Then the block, we like to call this in basketball, since it's not a perfect sport, it's called a makeup call. And the reason that you see it like that, or sometimes the refs make this mistake, he called the charge down there on the bottom baseline referee calls a charge because he's trying to provide a makeup call because Cleveland was screwed out of 2 other calls. And what happens is you got a referee at half court. You got a referee on the baseline. You got a referee on the other side. And everybody has a different angle on which happened. So there's such thing as a lead referee, but the last thing you want to do, the refs are a team also. If you make a call, I don't necessarily want to overturn your call or upstage you at that moment. We'll just talk and say, fellas, we'll give it back. And then the missed eyes, because the only thing that was supposed to be in question was he outside of the line? Right. Was he outside? And LeBron was outside, but it was clearly a block. So the referees tried to clean up their act and provide a makeup call, but when they went to the monitor, it was obviously a block. And then Javi's trying to make it. I say, hey, it was a charge. Man, that wasn't no charge.
So did you know about that rule? Did you know?
That's the bigger question.
Did you know that? Because I thought they were just going to see if he was outside the restricted area. Yeah. You could see he wasn't. I thought, well, okay, it's going to be Cleveland ball. Did you know they could change a judgment call?
No, that's new. That's brand spanking new. And I didn't know that. And like Ty Lue brought out in the presser last night was that the only thing you can see is, or you only question, is if the guy was in or out, and LeBron was clearly out after the play was made. Right. So it was definitely botched. But it's tough. You're working in that group of threes, and that guy sees an angle from half court that you don't see, that you're under the basket, and there's a reason they call those makeup calls, okay? They try to clean the game up, and they try to let the players decide the game rather than the referees decide the game. So, listen, dude, that was a tough look. The referees, Cleveland won, and nobody should be upset. That's a little skewed whistling game.
Bottom line, though, that was you think it was a block for sure. Now, because Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson both said you can be moving.
No, you can't. I played defense. Listen, no disrespect to those guys. I was a defender in the league for 10 years, and as a big, took a whole lot of charges. And if you're not taking the charge directly in your chest, or your feet aren't planted and you're moving, that is a block. That is a block, or you don't stay in it. What we always preach is stay in there like a man. You got to stay in there and take it. And the ref will say you fade out. And the only reason you're allowed to fade out of a charge is if a player's, it's not necessarily charge, it's a player control where the guy's just ramming his arm through. That's the only reason you can move.
Well, that's one of the things as ESPN's NBA analyst Ryan Hollins is with us. That was one of the things that Tim Legler said, look, when he saw him turn that shoulder, that's why he thought it was a block. By the way, Golic and Wingo, presented by Progressive Home Insurance. Get your quote at Progressive.com today. Home insurance might have paid off for the Golden State Warriors in Game 1, the way things played out.
Man.
But a separate issue entirely. This rule as it's written, because we all said, look, the NFL just went through this massive rule change in the offseason to avoid getting in situations just like this, just like the one we're having right now. So do you think this offseason the NBA will revisit this rule? Because we should be talking about so many other things, yet this block charge and the ability to review it and then see something else that wasn't the original call and then make that part of it seems insane. Do you think that they will revisit this rule?
Trey, you're darned if you do and you're darned if you don't.
Yeah.
Because there's so many in-the-game situations that we wish we had have been able to review. And they went in to try to clean it up and review it. And it ended up providing to be an epic mistake because the referee, you kind of take the power out of the referee's hands at that point. And that was an experienced crew last night. And they were trying to provide the makeup call, the fairness call. And they couldn't do that because that play ends up going under review. And there's things as a veteran official that you step in and do per se. If I know you're the best player on the floor, you got 5 fouls and you foul the guy and the ball's going out of bounds, I'm going to call out of bounds off of you. Okay? Rather than giving you your 5th foul, I'm going to keep you in the game and I'm going to say out of bounds off you. There are little nuances that referees do just to equal out the game. Mm-hmm. Let the players play the game. And you essentially took the power away from the referees. And that was a heck of a crew last night other than those botched calls. But those were big calls, brother.
Yeah, no, and that's, I think, the point that we've come back to in this is that you really put the focus on the wrong place with this rule. Ryan Hollins in studio with us. Ryan, I want to ask you about what happened at the very end of this game now. We get into overtime, you get in the end.
Yeah, it's up your alley.
Well, and this is the disconnect I have here because I'm trying to figure out how to make sense in this the way that I went through things in football. Because I always said a team running up the score on us at the end of the game never mattered to me. If we were going to do something about it, we'd have done something about it.
Yeah.
But I always thought of the one thing that bothered me at the end of the game, and it's something that we fight about endlessly, which is when players in football are taking the victory kneel formation. Game's out of reach. We're kneeling out the clock. We're all trying to go home. And you get a defensive lineman diving into the offensive line's ankles, trying to make a play, trying to swat the ball away. Which is this more like? Because Sean Livingston's shot seemed to be the point of contention here. Him late in the clock, game's already out of hand, taking a shot. Is that something that's legitimately bothersome to you as an NBA player, as someone who's been in this scenario?
I'm getting fired up right now. That's one of the most disrespectful things that you can do.
Woo!
And it's sending a message to the other team that we don't respect you. There is no gentleman's handshake. There's no good job. It's a disrespectful move. And if a guy goes in for a layup or a guy's trying to get a point and the game is out of hand, it's flat out disrespectful. And I'm upset. I'm fired up and I'm offended by it. And everybody keeps saying that this deal isn't a rivalry. That's a rivalry right there. There's just unwritten rules, like you saw Dame Lillard grabbing that thing from CP. Like you don't do that.
All right, so he went to shoot it, and Tristan Thompson went up to block it, and the ref immediately threw him out, thinking the elbow went to the face. I saw the replay, and I didn't see anything. Well, I was stunned that the ref threw him out. Then it led to the ball in the face, and we'll see what happens. Did Kevin Love come off the court because he was out of the game? So we'll see what goes on there. But did you think Tristan Thompson getting tossed was the right move?
Great move. Perfect move. Veteran crew last night. When the game is out of hand, the last thing you want to happen is for emotions to flare and it to turn into something bigger than it should be, and the game was out of hand. So when you kick Tristan Thompson, you essentially say, I don't want to run the risk of a fight or a brawl between these guys. Clean the game up before it gets out of hand. The game was already over with. That's why Tristan got kicked, because you didn't want to see anything extracurricular. And if you're the referee, you're instead of just you're gauging emotions, you have to foresee a fight or guys getting into it and save them from themselves. So great job from ejecting he and Draymond last night. And that's why he didn't do nothing, but he had the potential to be an instigator, and that's what you saw.
Ryan Hollins, you are an instigator. You are automatic offense, automatic hot takes. We appreciate the short turnaround and you getting in here, man. Woo!
To give batters a different look, pitchers throw a changeup.
Your idea of a different look is sunglasses.
That's true. But La Quinta Inns and Suites is really taking the different look thing to a new level.
Definitely a major league makeover, starting with a bolder, brighter lobby full of comfortable spaces to let you settle in.
Or chill out in front of a big flat screen like Wingo would.
Oh, you know it. It's a changing La Quinta look to help you get in the zone and look sharp when you hit that big meeting.
Prepare to win at business with La Quinta Inns and Suites.
Book now at LQ.com.
At Trex, we know there's a place for wood in your backyard. We recommend the fire pit. But when it comes down to choosing the right material for your next deck, look no further than the superior beauty and durability of the world's #1 premium decking brand. Trex delivers the look of wood without all of the work and the worry, and it's made from 95% recycled materials, which makes it the right choice for your backyard 100% of the time. To learn how to make Trex your next deck, visit Trex.com to order samples.
Golic and Wingo with you on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. Again, leave us a voicemail about your thoughts of Game 1 of the NBA Finals. We will get to those. Again, 860-506-5505. We want to hear from you, so let those start flying. 860-506-5505, and we will play some of those a little bit later on because there is so much to get into.
Yeah, there is.
Game 1 of the NBA Finals.
We barely got into the Tristan Thompson thing, and I do disagree with Ryan Hollins on that. I didn't think there was any way you throw Tristan Thompson out of that game. Never even connected with an elbow, went up for the ball. I thought that was really, really a poor job by the official on that one.
Completely agree with you. And then, of course, there's the Kevin Love. Did he step on the court?
Right.
Was he already on the court? Will there be a suspension? Remember that whole Knicks Heat series a few games ago, many, many years ago. So we'll see how that plays out. But again, we've got a lot to get to because we got a great Stanley Cup final.
Yes, we do.
Shaping up. Thanks in part to a great save by Holtby on basically what looked like a wide open net. This series is tied at 1, and NBC Sports' Eddie Olczyk now joins us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Get triple action protection for optimal engine performance with Shell V-Power Nitro Plus Premium Gasoline. Stanley Cup Finals continue tomorrow night with Game 3 on NBCSN. The first time there has been a Stanley Cup Final in our nation's capital in 20 years. Eddie, good morning. Just before we get into what happens in Game 3, how much does this entire series shift because of that potential game-tying goal wiped away by Holtby in Game 2?
Well, guys, good morning. Thanks a lot for having me. Sometimes series and games are defined on certain moments, and you could look at that incredible save by Braden Holtby as a defining moment or a turning point in this Stanley Cup final. You go back to Game 1 where Washington had Vegas on the run. It was a 4-3 game in the third period. John Carlson, terrific defenseman for the Capitals, hits the post. Doesn't get lady luck, right? Then a couple minutes later, that game-tying goal, a penalty should have been called on Ryan Reeves for cross-checking John Carlson right in front of the blue paint, puts the puck in the back of the net, ties it up, no call, Vegas takes advantage. And then late in the game, a wide-open net for Lars Eller, the Capitals forward. He doesn't put the puck into the back of the net, and Vegas wins Game 1. So sometimes just the bounces are not on your side, and it's something that we talked about on our broadcast the other night. It's just, Washington just need a little luck. And look, for as incredible and as athletic of a save that was for Braden Holtby, of being able to put the paddle of his stick down when Alex Tuck had the wide open net, a little bit of luck was on his side too, because if he just gets it up a little bit or fans on it, it goes to the back of the net, and who knows from there. So sometimes you got to take advantage, and you need a little luck, and maybe everything under that umbrella happened on that particular play, and Washington's back in the series. Because I think they probably deserve better in Game 1, but the series is tied, and we got ourselves a series.
So along those lines, listen, you're a player, you're a former player, former coach. You see the game differently than those of us who didn't play. So on that save, you say a little bit of luck involved. Was anything as he had all his attention on Eakin, who makes the pass to Tuck? Is any of this on Tuck and lifting that puck a little bit, or does he think he has such a wide open net that it's going to be an easy goal?
It's a combination, Mike. It really is. And again, what we try to do on our broadcast is, you show it in slow motion because you want to see how in the hell does the guy get his stick, from being in front of him in between his legs and then just kind of flip it over. Almost like, you get a tennis racket in your hand. It's almost like that's the feeling, right? You got it in front of you and then you want to put it over to your side and he's able to make that stop. But as far as is Alex Tuck there, I mean, the puck was on edge. I mean, if there's anything there, the puck was on edge, a little bit tougher to handle, but that's one of those there where you sit there. I mean, that's the one that keeps you up for forget nights, for weeks and months, right? I mean, you have an absolute wide open net, and you got a chance to tie up a game in Game 2 of the Stanley Cup final, and you're not able to do it. I mean, those are the ones that eat away at you for a long, long time. So, look, when you get those opportunities, you can't miss them. You cannot miss those wide open net opportunities, and give Braden Holtby, 99.9% of the credit. But as far as the offensive guy there, you got to find a way to put those hands towards the crossbar and elevate that puck. Or if you have the patience, is to hold on to it a second longer and then go ahead and let the puck come to you and then maybe give yourself a different type of an angle. But things happen really quick because that was a crazy play. I mean, the puck took a crazy carom around the boards, and next thing you know, it was just a mad scramble, and Eakin moved it over, and we got our save of the season, no question.
Talking to Eddie Olczyk of NBC Sports on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. An opportunity now for the Caps going back to their home ice, but could potentially be doing it with a guy who's been a star for them this playoff, Evgeny Kuznetsov, who they're waiting to hear on the status of right now with that upper body injury. How devastating a loss is that to a team who's going home with a chance to really take a stranglehold on the series?
Well, it's a great point, Junior, because Kuznetsov, to me, has probably been 1 and 1A as far as their top players all playoff long. They've dealt with injuries before. They've dealt with suspensions before, that being the Capitals. They lost Tom Wilson for 3 games earlier in the playoffs. They lost Nick Backstrom. He got hurt in the Pittsburgh series back in round 2. But you need depth, and that's why it's a team game. Lars Eller stepped up. He had a 3-point game in Game 2. He stepped up huge when Backstrom was out earlier in the playoffs. But Kuznetsov's one of those type of players, when the puck gets on a stick, something good's going to happen. He's a tremendous skater. He can push back the defense. And, I don't want to say it was an innocent-looking play, because anytime a guy is coming at you looking to run you into the 5th or 6th row, it's going to hurt. And Braden McNabb, the defenseman for Vegas, took a run at Kuznetsov, and he didn't go at him, like face-to-face. He kind of skated backwards into him, and he just looked like he caught his left arm in a bad spot there, and he labored over to the Capitals bench and never returned. So, I mean, that is I talked about the save by Holtby, being a defining moment or a turning point. You could certainly look at that injury with a guy like Kuznetsov, because he is so good. He plays on the top line with Alexander Ovechkin. That can be a turning point. But this team, Washington, has been so resilient. And to take some people back that may not know, I mean, at the start of the playoffs in round 1, Washington had home ice, and they lost the first 2 games of the series at home to Columbus, and everybody thought they were done like dinner. And Alexander Ovechkin stepped up and said, we're going to go to Columbus and win those next couple of games, and we're going to go from there. And they won 4 straight, and they haven't looked back since. They won a Game 7 in round 3 against Tampa, and this team has showed everybody that they are for real, and they've got that mental toughness, and they've had a heck of a run here, and it's great to see.
It certainly is, as Eddie Olczyk from NBC Sports is with us. And by the way, Eddie, let's be honest. If anybody's covered a Stanley Cup run, when you hear the words upper body injury, that is the most hockey thing ever, right? If I didn't see him holding his arm, I would think he's got a knee or ankle injury, right?
Yeah, right. Hey, Trey, you know what? When you hear coaches say, and I've used this verbiage before, but he's day to day. Well, in the big picture, aren't we all day to day?
That's
really?
exactly right. Scotty Bowman was the best at this. He's got a lower body injury. It's a shoulder. Yeah. Nobody was better at that than Bowman over the years. Eddie, we appreciate you getting up with us this morning. We expect a great game, Game 3 in Washington. We'll see what happens throughout the series. Thanks for being with us, pal.
Thanks, Eddie.
Keep up the great work, guys. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Eddie's one of the best.
Oh, he does.
Absolutely
without
one
question.
of the best, and does a great job.
Done like dinner.
Done like dinner. Great.
They have more great sayings in hockey than anything else.
I just love the focus on luck in hockey. It's my favorite, most endearing trait about these guys. Process-driven, everything good that happens is luck.
Well, they know it. I mean, the thing, you're on ice on steel blades, okay? There are going to be some crazy things that happen that you can't control. And sometimes it just goes that way, and we'll see what happens in Game 3. Everybody's saying newspapers are dying, but we're going to give a big shout-out to one person, a headline writer, who certainly earned his or her paycheck that may deserve a raise.
Hey, guys, this is Mike Golic.
And this is Trey Wingo.
You ever wish you could wake up early in the morning and have donuts with your dad and us?
For Father's Day this year, you can. We're teaming up with Sport Clips Haircuts for a Dad's Day getaway, an all-expense-paid trip to ESPN, including a day spent with us on the show.
Plus, my son Junior, it is for Father's Day, isn't it?
Register for your chance to win online at sportclips.com/ESPN and make priceless memories.
No purchase necessary. See rules at sportclips.com/ESPN. U.S. only. Age 18 and up and 6/15/18.
All right, Golic and Wingo with you on ESPN Radio and ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. Leave us a voicemail, your thoughts on the Game 1 of the NBA Finals and what went down and what didn't go down, actually, at 860-506-5505. We're also reminding you 30 for 30 podcasts have returned. Subscribe to 30 for 30 podcasts right now in the Listen tab of the ESPN app or on the Apple Podcast. We are brought to you by ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Try it for free by going to ZipRecruiter.com/30. So there's a lot to get into, and we'll get into the spelling bee in a second. But before we do, we have to give a shout-out to the New York Post.
Yes.
Because over the years, they have been, maybe I would say, the gold standard when it comes to headlines in New York. One of my favorites was from the 80s when there was a decapitation at a men's club.
Whoa.
And the headline was Headless Body and Topless Bar.
Yeah.
That may be the all-time gold standard. Really good. Really, really good. But last night, the back page on Game 1 of the NBA Finals, also fantastic. For those of you that have a history of TV and, J.R. Ewing in Dallas, and was Who Shot J.R.?
Right.
Their headline was Who Shot? ? Not J.R.
Not J.R.
That's well done.
Pretty good.
That is
Pops.
well done all the way around.
It's a headline that pops. You gotta, that's one of those too. It's like firing off a great tweet the minute you hit send. Like the minute you send that one to print, you just do the kiss fingers right there because you know you just absolutely laced that one.
Headless Body and Topless Bar, though, will always be.
It's descriptive, too.
It really
hits
is.
all the important details across.
Slow down, read it, and really understand what happened.
It's really, really good.
They're both verbs.
Yeah, you didn't have to spell anything, though, in there. And we had the spelling bee last night.
It is definitely not alliteration, by the way. We had to fact-check that one. We went language of origin on you there.
Well, that's true. So what did you guys think of how the spelling bee went down?
Well, yesterday? I mean, it was quick. We got to the championship round, and Mike, you and Jen Latta were on ESPN3 last night covering it. I know me and Jake and your mother stopped by, and Kevin Nagandi,
Alexis Nunes, Stefania
Bell, all to do our spelling. But you did it, so you break this one down. This was a quick finals.
This was one of the sharper and more succinct finals I had ever seen. And what was remarkable was that you get down to the final two. So we had Karthik, who ended up winning, going up against Nysa.
Don't short Karthik. Karthik Namone.
All right, listen. Okay, if you want to act like that was the proper
I got it from Riley. I got the pronunciation
from Riley. I'm making sure you did it right. I'm just trying to do the best I can.
Riley, did I nail it?
Nailed it.
There you go.
Nailed it. All right, so here's the beef I have in this is that the final round, how it works is you get down to the final two spellers and it resets. It's round one of the finals.
Right.
And you go through, and the minute one of the spellers gets a word wrong, the other speller has to get that word right, their word right in that round,
right,
and then spell a word right in the final round to win.
2 in a row to win.
So Karthik had to spell 2 in a row to win. Nysa was up first in that round.
Right.
The word she got, I can't even begin to pronounce.
This is unbelievable.
Bewussteinslash.
I think it's Bewussteinslash.
Yeah, that's what I said.
I heard them pronounce it.
Or is it Bewussteinslash? I'm not sure.
But listen, this is the first word she got in the championship round, and it's spelled Bewussteinslage, and she missed one S. where it was two S's together. She missed the one S on a 16-letter word in the first round of the championship go.
It was soul-crushing. And
Unreal.
You saw her. She was super emotional even watching Karthik up there. By the way, shout out to Karthik, who, when he finally got his moment to shine on his winning word, operated on one of life's premier principles, which is if you have the opportunity to stunt, you stunt.
Yeah, because he knew it.
Knew it right away.
Yeah.
You saw that smile creep across his face, and he goes, "Can I have the definition?"
Yeah.
Just baiting Dr. Bailey in that.
Soaking in the moment.
Really was.
He went through all of the things, because you can ask for those 5 different questions, went through all of them, and then finally just dropped the hammer on everybody and got a confetti shower for the ages.
And here it is, in case you didn't hear it in all its glory.
Koinonia.
Koinonia, may I have the definition?
Knew it.
Intimate spiritual communion and participative sharing in a common religious commitment and spiritual community.
Koinonia. Koinonia. Koinonia.
That is correct.
It was,
And the best thing about this is these two finalists had competed against each
They
other.
did.
They're both from the same, basically,
They're
area
from the same county. Two suburbs, a different suburb of Dallas, but the same county. She beat him in a county B earlier, and he even said, listen, she could have easily won this thing. She deserves to be part of this as well.
Kevin Nagandi, a bunch of background information on this, told us all these kids, it's a lot like the AAU circuit or recruiting in football. These kids all know each other. They go to competitions together, so there's a lot of camaraderie on stage, a lot of genuine happiness for one another, and a great competition.
Yeah, his quote afterwards, she's a really, really good speller. She deserved the trophy as much as I did. He says, I got lucky because he didn't have to read Beswustenschlangen.
What an unbelievable word.
Coming up, an update on the biggest story of the week, plus your thoughts on the wild Game 1 of the finals. Stay with us.